everyone, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Pascal, and we got this fascinating guest today. I can't wait to hear him tell all about himself. And he is?
Ultramarathoner Simeon Bates. You did something, in my opinion, extraordinary. You ran 30 miles a day for 30 days back in March 2023 to raise money for a great cause called Freedom Firm, which rescues girls trapped in the nightmare of trafficking. Sim, is it okay to call you Sim?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All right, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
You must have gotten into running early before you decided to do 30 miles. Did you have a background in that?
Yeah, I guess I went to a very small Christian school where team sports weren't particularly accessible, and so I ended up doing a lot of solo sports. And so cross-country running became something that I would do from about age 10.
Oh,
so
wonderful.
I got very into that and run in the woods near my house in South London in England.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I fell in love with cross-country running when I was 15.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved it. It saved me over many times.
Yeah.
You know, it was
Kind of like, I believe it was like therapy for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was therapy for me. Yeah.
Running through the woods it's like a form of meditation.
Yeah.
It's great.
Outdoors, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
You get into the flow and it just goes.
Yeah.
how did you get into ultra marathoning?
Well, it was quite a few years later. I think I was about 22, and me and my best friend Lloyd, at the time, we were keen to go to Paris and run the Paris Marathon. Getting into the London Marathon is a long waiting list for it, but the Paris Marathon is a big one, and it's just across the pond. So we thought, if we're going to go all the way to Paris to run it, why not run to Paris and then run it? And so we decided we'd start at Big Ben, and we'd run to the Eiffel Tower, and we have to get on the ferry, obviously, in the middle. But it was about 200 miles, I think, from Big Ben to the Eiffel Tower of running. And so we took about a week. We ran there, again, kind of similar, kind of 30-ish miles a day. And we put camping stuff on. We wore backpacks, and I filmed it, actually. And then we got there on the Saturday, I think it was. And then on the Sunday, it was the Paris Marathon. So we ran the Paris Marathon the next day.
Wow.
And we thought that was fun. That was a cool way of having a holiday and doing something a bit different. And then I guess...
That's a story in itself.
It was really good fun. We had some really good adventures on that.
Yeah.
And it was just great being able to just jog along with a friend. And
absolutely.
It was a great way of doing it.
So you decided, I really like this.
Yeah, it's a nice pace. You're not in a rush. You're not, crushing kind of, 5-minute miles or anything, but you're just trotting along and again, getting some of that kind of meditation in there. You're just working through different things that might have been stuck in your head. You might have been stuck on a loop in your head for ages, and suddenly you have these eureka moments when you're running, which is
wow.
Quite nice.
Well, I only ran one marathon, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done physically, but I did it.
Wow, I didn't know
how did you get into? I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you're able to do this. So, how did you build up and to be able to do what you did?
Well, I'd gotten into kind of competitive marathon running a bit later on, and I'd had a few marathon goals, which I really wanted to break 2 hours 30, and I'd managed to do that. And I'd kind of thought, okay, well, at this point, I need to this is such a big part of my life, and it's such a big time commitment. And I thought, if I'm going to continue to spend this amount of time, I need to find a way of making this about more than just myself. Otherwise, it felt like a selfish endeavor just to be taking, because I'd train an hour a day, and I was like, this is a lot. I already, at the time of the 900 miles, I already had one almost 2-year-old child, and I had another one on the way. And I needed to find a way of making it a bit more inclusive. And I spoke to my wife about it, and I can't remember who it was initially. I think I had joked around with my mother-in-law, who's one of the founders of Freedom Firm, about doing something. And they mentioned that there had been now almost 900 girls rescued over the I think it was about 16 years they'd been running at that point. The organization had been running. And I thought, well, that'd be cool, wouldn't it, to run a mile for every girl. And that's where that kind of came from, the idea of, well, let's run 900 miles. And then I thought, well, 9 into 3 is quite nice. Let's try and do 30 miles for 30 days, and we'll get it all out in a single month. And I just like I like the numbers in that. It just seemed to
It's
make a lot of sense.
I mean, it's perfect.
But how'd you have the conditioning to do that? I'm fascinated with that. But also the motive. Wow, that's a tremendous motive to be running for that kind of goal. But the conditioning, did you have to practice a lot for that?
I mean, I guess because I'd gotten up to a good level of physical fitness to be running fast marathons, to then just kind of dial it back and just really jog. I mean, I think it took me each day between 4 and 5.5 hours, I think, to do it. So it wasn't, I'd go out in the morning, normally by 1 o'clock I'm done. And then it was a lot of recovery work. So I had some different people who had helped sponsor. So I had, I had 2 brand new pairs of shoes, which I was alternating with just to give the foam in them a bit of time to recover. So just little things like that so it's not so hard on your legs. The local physio center was giving me lots of dry needling and massage to try and make sure that my legs didn't fall apart on me. I had compression, kind of inflate. Did you ever see the Wrong Trousers, that Wallace and Gromit cartoon? Oh, well. Maybe it must be an English thing. But then with these big kind of ridiculous inflatable trousers that, they put loads of pressure on your muscles and they warm up and they, just to help you recover. My wife was giving me about 5,000 calories a day in food to keep me going.
Wow.
Which was great. Lots of peanut butter and banana milkshakes. So good. But yeah, and I guess it was just, years of building up so that when...
What age were you then?
34, I think.
34.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I saw a clip of you going through the Nada Tunnel.
Oh, yeah.
So did you do the same route every day?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was a little bittersweet in a way. The idea was I'd mapped out a 30-mile route which had some substantial hills in it, which was great, and I wanted it to not be easy. Like, I didn't want to find the flattest route and just or run around a track. I was like, that's not really the goal. It was supposed to be, in some way, I think I was searching for something in it. I wanted to find the end of my physical self and then see what's outside of that. I know it sounds kind of pretentious and possibly a bit silly, but like when you can't go any further, then what's next, And so I wanted it to be difficult. And so, the route up through the Nada Tunnel's got some that hill is you can really bury your soul in that hill. I love that hill.
That's fascinating in itself, Sam, because you were learning early to push your envelope.
Yeah. And I wanted, that was part of it. And it was also not that you can ever come close to, and not that you'd want to try and get an insight into what these girls are going through, but just I felt like they're going through such a physical struggle, and maybe by physically struggling myself in some way I'd be able to find answers to questions that I had. It's
already
totally different things.
That's fascinating too. You were already identifying with your goal.
Attempting to.
So somehow you got compassion in part of your system growing up.
Well, and I just had a daughter. I'm one of 4 sons, and my poor mum, very long-suffering mum, I think she'd always wanted a daughter in the family. But suddenly, to have this little girl that I was looking after and responsible for, along with my wife, suddenly having this beautiful little girl, the whole issue of trafficking hit me in a completely fresh way.
Yes,
it was I was going to different churches and trying to talk about the cause and trying to help raise awareness, and it was quite frankly embarrassing because I couldn't do it without just ending up in tears. Like, it would hit me every time I'd be on stage in front of a group of people and I would start talking about it, and as soon as I thought about my little girl, I'd just fall to pieces.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it is, to me, it's the ultimate nightmare situation.
Absolutely.
Like, I can't think of a worse scenario. And so it just kind of, it hit me there, and I was like, well, let's do something about it. And the idea of just going for a run seemed like such an easy thing to do in some ways. And the idea of, I mean, someone said to me, well, this could really injure you, and it has actually. It's cool. I've had some issues since it, but I keep coming back to, like, well, who cares? Like if I never get to run a competitive marathon again, but the money that we raised and the awareness that we raised saved even one girl, then it would all be worth it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I believe it saved. It's had a significant effect. The money that we raised.
Yeah.
Um,
You raised...
I think it was about $90,000 in the end.
Wow.
Which was significant. We were aiming for
Wow.
100,000. We did very well. And yeah, I mean that. Well, I mean, we're sure we'll get into it, but
Well, you had,
Yeah.
I was interested because you really had your heart into it. That's what I was wondering. What you just said. Your heart cut into it. And what helps you get your heart into it is that little girl you had yourself.
yeah,
You know.
yeah,
So you would feel so intensely on the stage. You know, you'd break down. So
Yeah.
yeah, you were totally emotionally into it, not just mentally.
yeah. I think in terms of the motivation for it, that made it extremely easy. Like there was never a point where I was like, oh, I want to quit, because it was just like, well, no, like that was never an option of quitting.
Yeah.
And sadly, like I did have to make certain compromises. One of the issues with the route that I was running is the camber of the road is very severe over there, and because you're always running on the left side of the road, basically it just did a number on my ankles.
Wow.
And so after about 500 miles, I'd had so many dry needling sessions and so much PT that I ended up running a significant portion of it on a treadmill, which was not what I wanted.
Oh, right.
But I did put the treadmill at least on an incline and try and get a bit more out of it. But man,
I don't see how you did that.
I was gutted not to be able to do it all on the roads, but I think by that point I'd already got a lot of microfractures in my feet, and it was.
I've run roadside a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's okay. Like it's okay as long as you're mixing it up and but yeah, always just running on that slight angle. Like after however many hundreds of thousands of steps, you're just putting a lot of stress on your joints.
People may not know you were raised in a missionary family, and you are a man of faith.
Yes. Yeah.
Did your faith have a big part of all this effort?
Oh, absolutely.
Tell us about that.
Well, I was over in India around 2010, I think it was, and I noticed that a thing that a lot of the other mission families would do. I'd often go for runs in the morning, and I'd see people out on prayer walks, is what they would call them, and they'd be walking around the botanical gardens and do a prayer walk. And I thought, that's interesting. I've never done prayer walks, but I think I prayer run a lot. And I guess part of that seeking in this was it's just a very long prayer run. So I did have, I'd take on some music or podcasts or things to listen to, but I'd try and spend a lot of the time just listening to, just to whatever God was able to, or willing to share with me in that time. And I had a lot of kind of, a lot of interesting analogies, kind of metaphors came up in my mind as different parts of my body started to struggle. And I was kind of like, that's interesting how yesterday, because my ankle was hurting so much, maybe my knee gets affected by it, and I would kind of notice all these different things, and it was interesting how one part of the body starts to kind of compensate for another, and I was thinking about the body of Christ and how we're supposed to work together to solve these issues, and kind of what you were talking about unconditional love and things like that, and it made me realize that there are some things that you can't be totally independent for. You need to rely on your other people within the church. And
I'm still fascinated by the incredible mechanics of the human body. It's just something at all. It just still boggles your mind to really understand some of the interaction. Yeah.
Did you have any surprising or funny things that happened during this?
I was trying to think about that. Not so many funny things, I would say. I mean, it was in general, it was pretty tough. I had a few lovely moments where my wife and my daughter would come out, and I'd kind of run around the corner, and there they would be with some energy bars or shake or whatever, and my little one would come running towards me, and that was very that was wonderful. Day 26 was, I guess, a slightly surprising moment when my wife went into labor. And we had our son a week earlier than planned. So that made the next 4 days quite interesting. Suddenly a lot less sleep. And that was so cool. It was great.
Yeah. So but you sustained your thing.
Okay. It just made me want to get home a bit quicker to see him.
Yeah.
But that was really wonderful.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about Freedom Firm?
Yeah. So Greg and Marla are the founders of Freedom Firm, and they're my wife's parents. Marla's story is very interesting because she's from a mission family. Her parents worked on the OM ships, which is Operation Mobilization, and
Okay.
and so Marla spent some years of her childhood on those, along with her siblings, kind of traveling around, going to all these incredible different places. And they'd made a lot of connections, and I think it was when Marla was 18, she ended up staying or going to visit India, and staying with a friend of her parents. And it was through that at 18 that I believe she was introduced to a girl who had come through the trafficking, and the guy she was staying with kind of said, look, this is a real issue and someone needs to do something. There's lots of people working on it, but people need to be aware of this and people need to help. And I think it just hit Marla in a big way. Like she was able to spend some time trying to teach this girl to read and to be a friend to her. And it was later, I think she'd left and she went home and she just had such an incredibly strong emotional reaction to it. And she was only 18 at the time, but she knew that she needed to do something. And I think a few years had passed and she met her now husband, Greg, who's a lawyer. And they realized that, between the two of them, they could go and make a significant difference. So they moved to Mumbai at first. They had several kids. They moved to Mumbai when my wife now, when she was 3. And so my wife spent 15 or 16 years living in India. The first few years in Mumbai, and then they set up Freedom Firm a couple of years later, and moved to Uti in southern India. And for the last 20 years this year, Freedom Firm's been running, and I think they've now rescued around 1,100 girls.
Wow.
So,
They did a podcast called Voices for Her, which explains, if you get a chance, anybody who's listening, look it up, Voices for Her. As I listened to it, it really hit me the weight of this issue, the prevalence of this problem. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm not the most qualified for talking specifically of the girls' stories, but one thing that hits me and saddens me, I mean, I was speaking to my mother-in-law yesterday, and they just rescued an 8-year-old girl. Like an 8-year-old girl. And like part of you is like, wow, that's great that they've rescued her. But part of you is just like, why does she need rescuing? Like, what is going on? Like, what is wrong with the world? And the sad thing is there aren't these fairy tale endings where, the girl gets rescued and then, oh, she's rescued, everything's great now. And she, goes to college and has a wonderful life, and that's that. I mean, there are stories where there's one of the girls who's been rescued. I'm sure this is the way with a lot of them, but I know one of them who's still in touch with Greg and Marla, or quite a few of them are. And, she's now married and has children. But the scars are never gone. They're all living with this. Like, they're rescued from it, but there's the shadow of it will chase them for the rest of their lives.
And you can speak to that. That was one thing really hit me is when they're rescued, it's not over. They have to live with what happened. They think about what happened. And they have to be convinced in a way, correct me if I'm wrong, that a better life is deserving for them.
There's hope.
Yeah. Well, the Western culture is so different. We have this idea of everyone having inherent value. And that, the American dream is kind of this idea that you should be able to pick yourself up and you should be able to move to something better. That doesn't exist so much. I don't want to get into any trouble here or say anything, but within certain parts of Indian culture and within different religions over there's just not the same individual value given to people.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these girls, I mean, they'll be sold by family, by relatives into this. But uncles or they'll be child, brides, and then their husband will sell them into it. and then they'll be told by the brothel keeper that they've been bought for a certain price, and they now need to pay off that price. So they start off thinking that they're in debt to the brothel keeper for something. You know, they never wanted to be in this in the first place.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they'll be charged rent on the bed that they're using. And they're thrown into a system that everything is against them, and they're told that, you know, they're in debt to that system.
Yeah.
They don't believe that they're better than it, or that they should be out of it. And so I just think that psychologically, I mean, everything's against them. No one's telling them that they're wonderful and loved and created in the image of God, and that they're of value.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think years of that, you don't change that overnight.
Yeah.
Like,
You don't ever change it. You just find a way to live with it.
well,
It can't be changed, you know.
yeah.
Can
It's
can
there all the
you?
time.
I know. Well, could you explain how the process works? It sounds dangerous to free a girl.
Yeah. So, I mean, the money that we raised, a lot of it is about, and essentially, initially, you need to find where these people are. And so there are different kind of operatives that Freedom Firm use who will go into brothels and places in the red light districts. And they are specifically trying to find underage girls. And so they'll go in posing as customers, and they'll have hidden cameras on them. And they go in and they'll, you know, ask questions to try and find a particularly young girl. And then if they bring out a girl who's you know, very young, then they've got it all on camera. They then go away. They'll inform the police about it, and then they'll go back with the police to attempt to rescue that girl. But sadly, like, there's so much corruption. And so even if they identify a girl, they might tell the police about it. The police might tell the brothel keeper that they've had a tip-off, and then the brothel will move or close down, or the girl will be moved.
Okay.
And it's not like if something closes down, it doesn't. That's not the end of it. It just, you know, it'll pop up somewhere else. The girl will get moved to a
Okay.
different brothel. And so I think one of the first girls that they rescued, I can't remember. I think she was about 12, and she had been identified, and they'd gone to the police. And then the police were, oh, it's a national holiday, we can't go now. And so, you know, they went back again. Oh, the next day, oh, can we go? Oh, no, another excuse. I think it took 3 days before they eventually went to the brothel, by which point, I don't want to get my stories too confused here. I think the brothel keeper was the grandmother of the girl who was, you know, being prostituted. And I believe she had been moved, and it was months, and through incredible circumstances, all of which I don't recall, I'm afraid, the details, but she had been moved, and they had found her months later, and she was brought out of it, but she had been used for months.
Yeah.
You know. And yeah, there's 1,100 stories similar to that,
Right.
of just all girls who've been rescued by Freedom Firm. And yeah, they have the emotional baggage. A lot of them have a lot of physical baggage. And then it's also, once they've been rescued, the people who are running these places need to be brought to justice. And so then there's a lot of legal battles that have to happen. And actually getting convictions is so difficult. I mean, it's just, it's near impossible to actually get convictions on these things.
But it's over 1,000
over 1,000
success stories, right?
Over 1,000 girls have been rescued.
Yeah.
Success stories in that they are no longer in the system. I mean, the ultimate success would be to close down the system, to destroy the system. But like I say, there's so much corruption within it. And fighting those legal battles, that takes money, that takes resources. It takes a lot of time. And so Greg and Marla are really dedicated to that. They've got a team in India now that are fully dedicated to that. Most of the staff in India are locals, which helps a lot. They're very plugged into they're in the culture themselves. They understand the culture. They have an emotional, connection to the whole problem, and they're very motivated to do whatever they can to fix it.
One thing I'm hoping you can address: this is not a problem just for India.
No.
Can you talk about that?
I mean, I know that it is a problem even here in Kentucky, and it's a problem worldwide, sadly. Greg and Marla are now, they've just started, they've gone to Bangladesh. They did their first recce of Bangladesh a couple of weeks ago. So they went to several places there, visited several red light districts, made connections with different people to try and get an idea of the scope of the situation there, and they're planning on setting up Freedom Firm offices in Bangladesh, and beginning to deal with it over there. But it's a worldwide issue, as you say. I mean,
and it's right here.
It's right here. It's around us. When I was speaking to some of the local pastors and at some of the churches, even where I live over near the gorge, you know, there are plenty of stories of young girls who are being used, you know, in our own state, in our own counties.
Yeah.
So,
Is there any misconceptions people have about this problem, maybe that you might want to address in some way?
I think the misconception in general is that that slavery is a thing of the past and that no longer exists. I mean, as far as I'm aware, in terms of the number of people who are currently in forced labor or slave positions, regardless of what type of, sex trade or other things, there are more people within that now than there have ever been. Yeah. I mean, we have a much larger, global population of 8 billion. Yeah. So, this is still a very real issue. And something that we can do things about, I think I quoted it once before. I can't remember who the quote was given to, but it's that quote, all it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing.
Yes.
And that's a collective thing. Good people, people need to, if you have a heart that tells you this is wrong, I need to do something about it, then don't wait until that feeling disappears and move on. Do something about it. And if everyone was to do something about that, we'd make real changes.
Absolutely.
My understanding also is that the churches are so organized today is that you don't really get the clear definition and invitation to live unconditionally, because there's so much happens in religious organizations, and often people feel like all they have to do is believe a certain things and avoid sin and go to church, and that's it. So there's a wide gap between what I think Jesus really taught and the way Christians mostly live today. Yeah. And so it's I see that as a huge problem. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I can't remember where it is. Is it in James where he talks about, I'll show you through my actions, I'll show you my belief, that faith without action is nothing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I think, if your faith is real, then it will, if Jesus is within your heart, then he'll strike your heart. And when he does then you need to act on it.
But if you let him, that's the key. And the shadow will always keep him from doing that. That's what I find in my research. It's fascinating.
When I listened to the Voices for Her podcast about this problem, I thought of it made me think of another great missionary to India, Mother Teresa, who said, don't wait for leaders. Don't do what you can do. Yeah. Because people would tell her, you're never gonna save all these people laying on the street. What are you doing? And she said, my mission is to be faithful to my mission. It's not to
rescue
not to rescue every single person. And is that similar to what Freedom Firm's beliefs are?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were talking about it possibly before we started recording, but you can only, what was it you were saying, Pascal? I mean, you can only really see reality through your lens. I mean,
everybody sees reality through their own story, with what they've been brought up with. Yeah, they don't see the reality outside themselves, and they often don't want to, because they're comfortable with the story they tell themselves. So yes.
But if you were to then save just one girl, her entire reality, everything that she perceives, that's been changed. Even though it may be a small part of your life, I often think about Billy Graham and how he's given so much, people really looked to Billy Graham as being this incredible evangelist. But I wonder who it was who took the time to speak to Billy Graham. You might speak to one person, you might have an effect on one person, and that one person might affect tens of thousands. Who was it who spoke to Mother Teresa, who, prompted her to make such a difference? So I mean, it is a drop in the bucket, but it's a ripple that comes out of that drop that can change a huge amount.
You never know where one person could go, one thing can go.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is energy plus grit plus your belief in the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
That somebody's going to take it.
Yeah.
That's the way I see my books. There's flyers that are offered. You know.
Yeah. Well, and some of the girls who have been rescued are now, they're working to rescue other girls, or they're working as therapists,
That's
or because
wonderful.
they've come through it and they have an understanding of it.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
And so that then, that has a knock-on effect.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
yes,
it does make it, it makes a significant difference once those ripples start moving outwards. One person can only do so much, but that person affects people, and those people then go out, and before you know it, it's like that.
Yeah.
It's that, what's it, it's the power of 5. I can't remember what the thing is that everyone, through 5 links, through 5 connections or something.
Yeah.
You're connected to everyone in the world.
Yes.
But yeah, in a very short time, you have a huge number of connections, and you can have a huge effect.
Absolutely. Are you planning on ever doing 900 miles again?
I don't think I'm very interested in the Barclay Marathon. Have you ever heard of? Sorry, not the Barclay, the Backyard Marathon. Invented
I've never
by
heard of it.
So this guy who invented the Barclay Marathon, whose name isn't Barclay for some reason, he's a quirky chap. I can't remember. Oh, Lazarus Lake is his name. But he also invented a format of racing called a Backyard Marathon. And that you run 4.1 miles every hour, and you just keep going as long as you can do it. So if you run 4.1 miles in 30 minutes, then you get 30 minutes to rest. But it's just a loop. And then as soon as that hour's up, you start again, and you just keep going. And lots of people will try and do it for 24 hours, which 4.1 miles means you hit 100 miles exactly within the 24 hours. The record stands at 450 odd miles or something ridiculous.
That's
that people
amazing.
just
Wow.
keep going. And,
Wow.
and they're very tactical about it. They'll have just enough time to have a 5-minute cat nap before they have to start running again, because 4.5 days people were going for, which is mad.
Yeah.
But I like the idea. I think that would be a great fundraiser, because it would give you the motivation, just one more lap, just keep going,
Yeah.
And people could sponsor you by miles, like for 10 cents for every mile you do, or whatever.
it's fascinating how running has taken off in our society.
Oh yeah, one of
It's
the
just
fastest growing sports in the
absolutely-
world.
Yeah, and it's just fascinating. The
Yeah.
only marathon in the country was the Boston Marathon
Yeah.
when I was sports manager in the U.S. Army in 1950.
Wow.
And so look
Yeah.
how it's just taken off, and what a healthy thing for people,
Yeah.
And
mentally and physically.
Don't you run a race in Stanton?
Yeah. Hopefully that's coming together for this year. We'll do the Freedom Firm 5K. It'll be connected to the Corn Festival.
When will it be?
I don't have the date for it right now. It'll go out on their website and things once that's confirmed. We've done that the last couple of years, which has been really great. But yeah, I'll wait on one of your last questions.
Well,
was
you,
pertinent to it.
I want to go
before-
back. I want to go back.
Go ahead.
Go back one thing. 10 years old, you
Mm.
got into running.
Mhm.
10 years old. How'd you get into running at 10 years old?
I think I went to a very small school, which had quite a. I'm quite dyslexic, and
You were dyslexic.
yeah, and I felt like my school had a big emphasis on academics, and I was not the academic one in the class.
Yeah.
I was a small class, but I did have some physical, advantages. I was quite fit and strong, and I don't know, I guess I just thought, well, I'm not very good at the other stuff, so I'm going to really work hard on the physical stuff. And it's only really been since leaving school that I've become much more academically inclined, and I spend huge amounts of time reading or listening to different podcasts to try and
So I'm going to do
kind of make
something
up for it.
different.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's what we call agency right
Yeah,
now. He was
absolutely,
taking
yeah.
charge of his life.
Yes,
At
yes.
10 years old, I'm going to do
maybe.
something different, right?
Yes.
Well, we had the opportunity to, like I said, solo sports. Those are easy to do if you're in a small school.
Yeah.
We never had the opportunity to play rugby or
No, yeah.
soccer or things like that because we had 5 people in my year group.
Yeah.
But I could run, and so I joined the local athletics club and had some brilliant mentors who helped me, through that. And
Somebody told me that when Sim runs his race in Stanton, he says, he does the countdown and everyone goes, And then by the end of the race, he's ahead of everyone. He comes in first after he tells them all to go.
Yeah,
Well, I try
that's
and,
what I'm
you
saying.
know, I don't want anyone to get lost on the course, so I just say, I'll
that's
try
good.
and,
That's
yeah.
a great point.
Well, it's good motivation, and I don't know. I enjoy it. My kids really enjoy it as well. They come along.
How
and
old are
get
your
involved.
kids now?
So I've got a 9-month-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Wow!
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're great. Hoping for some more as well. I
Okay.
really enjoy having
Congratulations.
kids.
Will we find you? I go to the gorge quite a bit.
Mhm.
Will we find you running on the roads?
Well, this morning I ran with my daughter. We did 5 miles together. She
Really?
I bought her one of those little e-bike, like electric bike. So
Yeah.
I got her one that it goes at about 10 miles an hour and it has about an 8-mile range. So we get out on the little back gravel roads, and so she's great on that. She'll cruise along next to me and we'll just kind of chat a little bit and have a bit of an adventure. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you mind if I ask what brought you to the Red River Gorge area?
The love of a good woman.
That's a good
go-to
answer.
No, my wife, she ended up going to Berea College. So she graduated from Hebron School in India, which I was connected to for a few years there. We met in England a few years after she had graduated, and I think her older sister had been going to Berea College at the time. And she decided she'd like to go and finish up her education there, and so we got married and ended up coming here.
Mhm.
And she
Wow.
graduated and we liked it. We thought, we'll stay here and I'll build a cabin and do that, and it kind of just expanded.
Wow. Wow.
But,
I think it's a great place to live, by the way.
Oh, it is. It's wonderful. Yeah, and I think it's great for our kids. They just get an opportunity
yes.
to be outside and
The outside
go in the
world,
creek
yes.
every other day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty nice.
The cathedral of nature. God's
Yeah.
cathedral of nature, yes.
Before we go, guys, we're coming to the end. What is do you know the Freedom Firm website?
Well, there's Freedom Firm USA, and then oh my goodness, it's probably on
Well,
the
that's
shirt
close
somewhere.
enough. You get
But-
it.
But just
Yeah.
Google
Firm.
Freedom
Yeah,
Firm.
www.freedomfirmusa.
It's got a lot of success stories
Yeah.
on there, a lot of great information about the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Your mother-in-law and your father-in-law
Mhm.
sound like amazing.
Yeah, you should
People.
get them on here when they're coming
That-
back. They'll be home in about 2 weeks' time. They'll be here for a few months before they head back
Wow.
out to
Okay.
set up different things. But yeah, they'll be around. They've got a lot more information than I can give you about the the real kind of heart of the situation. And
Mhm.
Marla's. She'll talk about it. Well, both of them will talk about it with passion, and they've really been through it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've asked a lot of questions. What haven't we asked
What
that
would
would
you
be good to say?
What would you like to tell us that we haven't covered?
Well, I was thinking about, I think it was your last question on there, possibly, but for the average, but like what someone else would like to do. I hoped, one of my hopes was that when I finished that run, that we'd be able to encourage other people to take on a challenge. A friend of mine at the time had this idea that, he really wanted to kayak, I think, down the Ohio River or something. And I was like, do it, set yourself a challenge. Talk to Leah Henk, who's currently the kind of president of Freedom Firm USA, and say, look, I can raise money in this way, or maybe you're not so physically motivated to go and do a big ultramarathon or ultra kayak or whatever, but maybe there's something that you're passionate about that you can use for something more than just for yourself. Take whatever your hobby is, whatever your desire is, and find a way of making it.
Fundraising.
Wow.
Fundraising. I've
That's a
done that.
great
Work it for
idea.
other people.
That is a great idea.
Yeah.
So, and although people do go out to India, people do go and help with the things really on the ground there, but raising the money is key. Like, I know we hear so much, give your money, and there's so many things that you can give money to. But personally, I don't think there's a better thing I could give money to. Like, I mean, this is just too real. It's too.
Yes.
It's too life-changing, and
Yeah.
and if you can make a difference by donating $10, then you'll never, after a couple of days, you're never going to think about that $10 again. Like,
Yeah.
it just doesn't matter in the scheme of your life, but it
Yeah.
could change someone else's life dramatically.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much for being with us. And
Thank you for having me. It's been
thank
great.
you
What a
for
story.
inspiring us. I may take on some crazy challenge just because of
man.
what you said today.